Hello friends, welcome and welcome to our new face, Leanne. Lovely to see you. This is a nice trend because we had a couple of new people last week, we had a couple of new people the week before that. Not that they come back again. but we do get new faces, which is nice. We'll have to, I need to work out a recruitment drive program that I can do. I don't know. I'll think this. Anyway, so for this week we will do our exercises as usual, and then I've got my little talk for this week on the subject of balloons. And unfortunately, I'm not going to do balloon animals. I can't do balloon animals, and the factory shop didn't sell the big long balloons to do the animals with. So I'll just talk vaguely, randomly about balloons. Well, we'll see where we end up. You know how I operate. Start in one place and end up somewhere else. It's not about the destination. It's the journey. Isn't that what they say? It's not the destination, it's the journey. Okay. Let's begin with our sitting exercise. So for Leanne's, I'll give you a little bit of an introduction. I don't know whether Kirsten's told you anything about what we do or what it's about. A little bit. Yeah. Okay. Well, the basic gist of it is it's all about being in the moment. This moment right now. Because this is the only moment that we actually have to experience our life. Hiya! No! Come in! Looking good.
Thank you.
Looking streamlined. Yes, it's the only opportunity that we've got to experience our life. The past is gone, we can't change it, we can't do anything about it, it's gone. The future hasn't happened, and there's no point in worrying about the future because we don't know what's going to happen. You know, we rehearse scenarios in our head, we're all guilty of it. We'll rehearse conversations and situations that we think might happen, but they never actually come to fruition, really. They never really pan out the way that we imagine them, and we cause ourselves a lot of tension and anxiety by thinking about the future, and also cause ourselves a lot of unnecessary tension and anxiety by holding on to the past, which is what we're going to talk about later. When I do my bit about balloons, it's about letting go. Actually, the only moment is this moment right now. And one of the things that there's a guy called John Kabat-Zinn, who's one of the American exponents of mindfulness, one of the key teachers, I suppose, worldwide. And he talks about having a beginner's mind. So in every new moment, every moment that happens, so this moment, and this moment, and this moment, you just maintain a beginner's mind, as if it's all new. Never encountered it before. It's all fresh, all completely new. Every moment is a new beginning. So that's what mindfulness is about. Being in the moment, being present. Hiya, come in, it's all right. Only just started. And another new face. Hi, welcome. Come in. So to help us to develop the ability to be mindful, and it is about being mindful. It's not doing. You don't do mindfulness. It's not something that you do. It's not something that you have to sit and think about. It's a way of being. You have to be mindful, and so there are exercises that we can do, so that we can practice, so that we can cultivate the ability to be mindful, to be in the present moment. So I was just explaining a bit about what mindfulness is. And it is basically being in the present moment. Not concerned with the past, because the past is gone. Not worrying about the future, because the future hasn't happened. Just being alive and being aware of this moment in time right now. It's the only moment that we've got. So yes, there are some exercises that we do every week, which you can, when in your own time, you can practice the whole of the exercise or just bits of the exercise. Sometimes that's a really good way to develop your own practices, just to take little snippets And just sit for a little while and just practice little elements of it. You know, because there are people that have really intense mindful practice, and they will sit with their thoughts and their whatever is in the present moment for hours on end. And that takes immense dedication. You know, they'll sit and just be aware of their breath for hours, mornings, days. You know, the Buddhist monks, they you know, it's like accumulating flying hours for pilots. You know, you can become a solo pilot after you've flown for however many thousand hours. And it's the same with some of the, you know, the Buddhist monks. They'll say, oh, you can't get your next badge or your belt or whatever it is that they get until you've done, you know, 10,000 hours of mindful meditation. And so that takes a lot of dedication and a lot of practice and a lot of time. And for the majority of us who perhaps have jobs and families and you know, all the rest of it to contend with, we can't think, right, okay, Tuesday morning for 3 hours I'm going to sit and be mindful, and then I'm going to do the same again on Wednesday, and then the same again Thursday afternoon, and block out great swathes of your diary for mindful practice. You know, but if you can devote snippets of time, a little bit every day, just a few minutes every day, or even a few seconds regularly throughout the day. You know, that's the beauty of the breath. When we do the breathing exercise later, you know, you can bring your awareness to your breath at any moment in time, any time. And if you can do that regularly, you just gradually develop the ability to just bring yourself back to the present moment when you need it. You develop your own awareness, or develop your awareness of being distracted. Is that the right way of putting it? You can develop your ability to spot when you're not in the present moment. You go, oh, I need to be mindful. I'm not present. I'm distracted. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about that. And you can bring yourself to the present moment. And it takes practice. And it's just taking little elements. And you know, some people prefer some things. Some people prefer others. For some people, some things are easy and others not. And it's, you know, in terms of the way that I like to teach it, if that's the right word, share it. When I like to share it with people, is you take what you need from it. You know, there's no right or wrong. There's no good or bad. There is only this moment in time right now. We don't label stuff. Nothing's good, nothing's bad. There's just now. And whatever works for you to bring your awareness to now is absolutely fine. And that's good with me. So that's where we're at. We'll start with the sitting exercise, because it's a good one to start with. And this is the one where we engage our senses. So we just take our time to bring our awareness to the different senses, because it's the information gathered by our senses that tell us what's happening in this moment in time right now. And the first sense we start with is our eyes and our vision. And we just look and just allow those light waves into our eyes and see what we can see. And just look in this moment in time at shapes and colours. We're not trying to pick out anything that we haven't seen before. We're not trying to see things differently. We're just seeing things as they are. When you've had a little look around, you can close your eyes and bring your awareness to what you can feel. So start with your physical body, and you can just be aware of the weight of your body sat on the seat. Your back pressed against the back of the seat. The way that your shoulders feel and the effect of gravity on your shoulders. Be aware of your head balanced on top of your neck. Aware of gravity pulling down through your spine and the weight of your bottom sinking into the seat. Aware of your feet in contact with the floor. You can be aware of perhaps where there's tension in your body. Just feel that relaxing slightly as you become aware of it. Feel it relaxing down through your neck and out through your shoulders. Be aware of the clothes against your skin. And perhaps even become aware of the very faint movement of air. Your face and your neck, your arms and hands. It is very faint, but it's there if you tune into it. Now take a nice breath in through your nose and just be aware of smell. Just aware of what you can smell at this time. Not even what you can smell, just aware of the smell that comes in through your nose at this point in time now. And then taste. Just aware of the taste in your mouth at this moment in time. Then finally begin to listen. Just allowing sound to happen and accepting the sound as it happens. Sound is always changing, always different. In each moment, that beginner's mind that I mentioned before, that each moment is fresh, is a new beginning, and that's particularly so with sound. All sound is different from moment to moment. Just be aware of that. If your mind wanders, if your mind becomes distracted by thoughts or ideas that come into your head, that's fine, that happens. Just be aware that that's happened. And either allow the sound of the bowl or just your own awareness of sound to just bring yourself back to listening in this moment. And we're not striving for peace and quiet. It doesn't matter that there's sound outside. We're not striving for peace and quiet because the peace isn't out there. The peace is inside. You are at peace if you can accept the present moment and accept all that's going on around. Accept that that is what is happening in this moment in time right now. And in accepting it, you find that peace, that inner peace and quiet. You can also find peace if it sometimes feels that internally there's a lot of noise and a lot of distraction and a lot of activity. If your mind's racing, if you're feeling emotional, if there seems to be too much going on, if there's too much internal noise, you can also become aware of it in the present moment and accept it. Accept that at this moment in time, internally, there is a lot of noise, a lot of distraction. And just be aware of it. And you'll find the peace surface through that awareness and acceptance. When you're ready, you may open your eyes. So that's our first little exercise. And now I do my little talky bit. And the topic for this evening was balloons. I have a balloon. This is where I'm leading myself, isn't it? By showing that I've got no strength in my diaphragm. Oh, crikey.
That's a pretty one. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
That's a really nice
Yeah, well, I was just gonna buy the big packet of the cheap little ones, but then I thought, no, they're epoxy. They're not gonna do. You know, I'm a little bit more flamboyant than that, so I bought the bigger ones that were prettier and more colourful. So there we go, blue. Now I'm not gonna talk specifically about balloons. That's not how it works. I'm not going to talk about the science of balloons. I'm not going to talk about what they're made of and who invented them and all the rest of it. It's always metaphorical. It's an image. It's the image. What it signifies. What we can glean from it, take from it. So we have a balloon. I've inflated it. It's full of hot air if it's come from me.
Excellent.
There we go. And it's gone. Crikey, put more effort into blowing up a balloon than I put into thinking about what I'm going to talk about. Anyway, so, right. What happened there before? What did I do?
You let it go.
I let it go, didn't I? I let it go. I had a balloon, I was holding it, and I let it go. I released it. Now, I could have had a helium balloon on a bit of string, and I could have let that go, and we could have watched it float up to the ceiling. Or, think of it like one of the, like Carnival Night in Deal, when you sit there and then you'll see some balloon float off, and you'll think, oh, some poor kiddie's crying because he's let go of his balloon, and some poor kiddie's dad's crying because he's paid £5 for that balloon, and it's currently halfway to Callum. So I could have done the helium balloon, but I thought no, because actually as images go, all that we see there is just the balloon inflated, floating off. It's not about that. It's a bit more. It's more about release. It's about that deflation. And there's a bit more humour, isn't there? There's something a bit funnier about that.
What did you blow up?
Yeah. Something funnier about that than watching some foil SpongeBob SquarePants float off into the distance. I won't play the gesture. Well, I could do. Now, why balloons? Why did I pick balloons? Well, one thing that struck me is what the balloon contains. What do I use to blow up the balloon? What goes into it?
Your breath.
The breath. And as we know from our mindful practice, the breath is incredibly important to mindfulness, because our breathing, our breath, happens in the present moment. You can't breathe in the past, you can't breathe in the future. I can only breathe in this moment in time, right now. So breath is very important, and awareness of the breath is critical within mindfulness. But here, I am now holding on to the past, a breath from the past. That breath that I exhaled 30 seconds ago is now contained, sealed in the balloon, and was sealed in those other balloons. Breath from the past. And I attempted to hold on to it. So there's a symbol, there's an image for you, a metaphor. I'm walking around now, holding on to the past. Holding on to the past. And I could continue doing that. I could go through my life taking balloons and holding on to the past, holding on to events from the past. And there was a story that I read about a bird, a free bird, who flew around during the day, enjoying life, enjoying the sunshine, feeding, drinking, bathing, tweeting, doing what birds do. And every day, in order to remember what it had experienced, it would collect a stone. The bird would, at some point during the day, pick up a stone to remember and to remind itself of what it had done that day. And over time, it developed quite a collection of stones. And every day it would sort through its stones and look at the stones it had collected and remember its experiences from the past. And everywhere it went, it took its stones with it. couldn't bear to be without its stones to remind it of all the fantastic experiences it had had in its life. And eventually it got to the point where the bird had so many stones, it couldn't carry them, it couldn't fly, couldn't lift off the ground and fly because it had so many stones. And it spent so long sorting through, looking at the stones that it had gathered, sorting them all out, that it never had time to experience any of the joys of being alive. And the bird was no longer free. The bird was no longer free because it was too busy holding on to the stones from the past, holding on to its breath with its balloons. Now, I could probably collect quite a lot of balloons and walk around with them, but the point in time would come when I would look an absolute idiot, especially trying to get on the train with 20 balloons on bits of string. I wouldn't be very popular. So what do we do? What do we do instead of holding on to our balloons and trying to hold on to the past? Just let it go. We just let it go in this moment in time. And it could be, people hold on to all sorts of things. Not just, there's nothing wrong with memories. We human beings have this incredible capacity for storing information, for storing memories. And that's fine. And we learn a lot. We learn from what we've experienced in life. We learn lessons, survival lessons, all sorts of stuff from what we have experienced and from our memories. But what we shouldn't do is be like the bird and spend all day going through them, sifting through them. What else do people hold on to grudges? People have an argument or a discussion and a disagreement. Their ego will hold on to that. Will hold on to it and bear a grudge and refuse to let it go. People hold on to particular beliefs. Maybe they failed at something. Tried this, failed, and they hold on to that. I'll never be able to bake Victoria sponge because I did it once and I failed. And they'll hold on to that. Or maybe it's something else. Driving. Maybe they'll think, I failed my driving test however many times. I'm a failure. I'll hold on to that. I'll hold on to that failure and I will not get over it. And it will prevent me from moving on. It's true.
It did upset me until I accepted that I'm not doing that at the moment. I'm not failed. It wasn't failed.
It wasn't failed. That's what happened. At that point in time, that's what happened.
Yeah. But it did make me ill one time.
I'm sure it did. Yeah, because you hold on to it. And like the balloon, if you hold on to the balloon, eventually it will sort of go a bit horrible and it won't be pretty colours and the rubber will perish to float it. So we just let it go. We hold on to so much stuff that we don't ever allow ourselves to experience being alive like the bird, because we're either sorting it out or we can't fly, or we've got so many balloons in our hand that we can't see what we're doing or get around or navigate life because we're lugging all this stuff around. People talk about our baggage, don't they? Oh, stay away from them, they come with baggage. They've got emotional baggage. Might not be baggage, maybe it's just loads of balloons, or maybe it's stones, or whatever it is. However, you lucky people have a new image. If you become aware at any point in time that you think maybe you're holding on to something, you can now remember me and my pretty marble balloon and the effort it takes to inflate it. The effort it takes to actually, that effort of inflation is pretty similar to the effort it takes to actually hold on to something. To think, I'm going to keep this, I'm going to keep hold of this belief, this idea, this memory, this emotion, whatever it might be. I'm going to actually go through the effort of clinging on to. No. You're just going to let go and watch it make that farty noise. And disappear. And you'll remember that now. The next time you become aware that you're holding on to something, and then, I'm holding on to that. So-and-so said that to me this morning, my husband, wife, and the other half, whatever, upset me when they called me a twat this morning. But you're going to let go. She didn't call me a twat. It was yesterday. You're just going to let go. That's it. Well, just the visual thing. Just watch it go. Watch it go and let it be gone. And come back to the moment. There we go. And the other reason I pick balloons is the cover image on the Facebook group that I did. There's always been balloons. To begin with, it was the helium balloons, and I changed it recently. I changed it to hot air balloons. Fancied a change. And hot air balloons. I can talk about those as well for a moment, because they're in terms of forms of transport, probably the most mindful form of transport you can have. How do you steer a hot air balloon? You can't. The direction that you travel in a hot air balloon is entirely dependent upon the prevailing wind conditions in that moment in time. You can go up a bit or down a bit and see whether the wind is blowing in a different direction at that point in time, a bit higher or a bit lower, but that's it. So you are entirely dependent upon the circumstances that you find yourself in at that moment in time. All you can do is just be in the basket and float and be taken by the wind at that moment in time. And it is remarkable because when you're in a hot air balloon, I'm fortunate enough to have done it just the once, but there's no wind because you're travelling at the same speed as the wind. So you don't feel any wind. The wind is propelling you and you're travelling at the same speed. So it's completely still. And so if you can be like the balloon, be like the hot air balloon, and be mindful, and just allow and the balloon has no choice. It just has to accept the wind and go with it. And if you can be like that yourself and accept the present moment and accept the prevailing conditions, then you'll be still and at peace like the hot air balloon. No wind, just travelling. And like I said before, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. Seeing where it takes you. Yeah. Okay. But I pick my balloons. They don't look so good now, do they? See? Why would you want to hang on to that? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. Far better in that moment. Just let it go. So I tried to contain my breath when I failed. My breath was released from the balloon. And similarly, we can't do that ourselves. We can't contain our breath. We have to breathe. We can hold our breath for a while. You know, there are people that can hold their breath for quite a long time. That American idiot, David Blaine, he did it for a quarter of an hour or something stupid. I bet he was mindful. I bet he was mindful at the end of 15 minutes of holding his breath. I bet he was banging the moment. But it's as we know, it's an incredibly powerful tool for bringing us into the present moment. Just that act of being aware of the air going in and the air going out instantly transports you into the present moment, this moment in time right now. And allows you to be aware of the prevailing conditions around us as we travel in our mindful balloon through life. So we'll do some breathing now for the next 10 minutes or so. And this is great because this is the one that you can do any time. If you're walking down the street, shop, you can breathe and breathe mindfully. If you're in the car, you can breathe. Be aware of your breath and breathe mindfully. And being in the car it's one of the... How many times have you been in the car, you've got in, put your seatbelt on, driven to your destination, got out of the car at your destination and thought, I don't remember a single element of that journey. I remember getting in the car and now I'm here. And I've just driven for 20 minutes in a what is effectively a huge weapon that can kill people, oblivious. Not mindful, not paying attention, not in the moment. So dangerous. So in the car is a great place to practice mindfulness. Not only because it will make you a better driver and perhaps stop you from killing somebody, but also because there's not a lot else to do. You know, you're driving, you've got, apart from maybe put the radio on, but you can save the radio for 5 minutes and just breathe. Right. I'd like to begin, and you can do this eyes open or eyes closed. If you're in the car driving, eyes open's best. But at this point in time, at this moment, you can choose eyes open or eyes closed, it's fine. But begin at the nostrils. Just be aware of the air moving in and out through your nostrils. And just follow each individual breath as it happens. And then move back and be aware of the breath in the back of your throat and in your neck. Follow it in and out. Now be aware of the breath at the top of your chest. Feel the rise and fall, the physical movement of your chest as you breathe in and it expands. And then you breathe out and it contracts and collapses down. Just follow that movement to be aware of that movement with each breath as it happens in the moment. Now be aware of the breath down at the base, at the diaphragm, bottom of your lungs. And just breathe naturally, steady. Just follow each part in and out. Now we can begin to break the breath down into its component parts. The in-breath, the out-breath, and then the pause between breaths. And as we've been talking about letting go and releasing, I would like you to be aware as you breathe out of letting go of that breath, of releasing the breath. So we breathe in and feel alive, and breathe out and be aware that we're releasing that breath. And just letting it go, letting this present moment go. Ready to accept the next moment. So we breathe in and feel alive. Breathe out and release the breath and let it go. And then we release into that pause. Just be aware of the sensation of releasing into the pause. Don't try and necessarily think too much about that. Just be aware of it. Just feel the breath release and feel that flow into the pause between breaths. Because in that pause you can feel at peace. You can feel the peace of having released. And now is an opportunity for you, once you've practiced releasing your breath and letting it go a few times, to release other things along with it. Anything that you've been clinging on to and holding on to, whether it's just for today or for the last week or the last month, year, however long it might be, since childhood, there may be particular things that come to your awareness, that you're aware that you're holding on to unnecessarily. Now is the opportunity. Breathe in and feel alive in this moment in time. And as you breathe out and release that breath, release that thought, that idea, that belief, whatever it is you've been holding on to, because it serves you no purpose. Just allow it to go. And then relax and release into the pause. And enjoy the peace. And enjoy the freedom and the joy that comes from releasing those things. Any resentment, any belief or feelings you have about particular people or situations, you can just release them and let go of them now as you breathe out, because at this moment in time, it doesn't matter. At this moment in time, You're sat in St Nicholas Church breathing and being alive. You're not doing anything, you're not thinking anything, you're just being. So you can release all of that other stuff because none of it matters. Not at this moment in time. There are whole branches of Buddhist thinking along the lines of non-attachment. Books, probably hundreds of books written about non-attachment. They all come down to the same thing. They all come down to what you're just practicing right now. Just letting go, just releasing through the breath any of those negative thoughts or ideas. Well, not even negative, or just anything that you've been holding on to. We don't label them as being negative or positive. Again, it's non-attachment. We're not attached to them. We don't label them. It just is what it is. There's nothing more complicated than releasing it as we breathe out and relax into the pause between breaths. And that pause is always with you. You're driving the car, walking to the shops, even in the middle of an argument, that pause between breaths is still there. And if you can release into that pause, then you are truly a mindful being. When you're ready, you can open your eyes. And so endeth today's practice. Thank you everybody for coming.
Thank you very much.
And I'll see you next week.